Hello beloved souls, thank you for tuning into the Spiritual Podcasts channel. This channel is all about good vibes, positive energy, and meaningful conversations. To keep this space welcoming for everyone, we kindly ask that comments stay respectful, kind, and in the spirit of the content shared here. We reserve the right to delete any comments that don't align with this intention. No hard feelings, just protecting the vibe. Thanks for being here and spreading the light. Please be cautious of anyone claiming to represent Spiritual Podcast and asking you for money, donations, or personal information. We will never ask you for money through comments, messages, or DMs. All official updates and content come only from this channel. If you see suspicious activity, please report it immediately. Stay safe and thank you for being part of our community. If you enjoy the video and its content, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. Please be kind to other viewers of the channel. The video is about to start.
Have you ever paused, really paused, to consider if your life is unfolding along some kind of fixed path, preset destiny? Or is every single decision you make, every step, is that an act of pure conscious choice? Today, we're embarking on a really profound deep dive into exactly these questions, big ones, right? About free will, spiritual evolution, and, humanity's collective journey. We're going to unpack a truly fascinating collection of insights. These are drawn mainly from a YouTube video transcript by Maze Braga of Comedians and us as a collective, how they aren't just shaping personal destinies, they're literally influencing the future of our planet. So, okay, let's open this up.
What's so compelling here, I think, is how these sources, many quite old, really challenge our standard ideas of good and evil, and they force us to reconsider what it even means to be human in this, vast cosmic picture. Okay, let's start right at the beginning at what these sources suggest is like the absolute origin point of our spiritual journey. Allan Kardec, the key philosopher of Spiritism, he posed this fundamental question in the Spirits book, it's question 120 specifically. He asked if all spirits on their evolutionary path have to pass through the path of evil to eventually reach the good. It's a heavy question, right? Many traditions touch on this. What was the answer the spirits gave? It was pretty surprising, wasn't it? And what does that tell us right away about our inherent nature?
It really was surprising and profoundly reorienting. The spirits' answer was no, not through the path of evil, but through ignorance. Now, that's not just playing with words. It's a fundamental shift in perspective.
Yeah.
It changes how we look at every, wrong action or what we perceive as evil. Instead of us being born with some kind of inherent flaw, some pull towards malevolence, or needing to deliberately do wrong to grow, this suggests our mistakes, our missteps, what we often label bad, they actually stem from a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding. Ignorance, it reframes the whole journey. It's not a battle against some intrinsic evil inside us, but more like an awakening, a continuous awakening from this state of primordial ignorance. The basic idea is we're not inherently flawed, just
undeveloped.
Exactly. And if we expand on that, connect it to the bigger picture of creation, it means when God creates spirits, they're formed simple and ignorant. They don't come preloaded with a moral compass pointing one way or the other. They start neutral. Full of potential, yes, but neutral. Think of it like a blank slate. Rich with possibilities, but no experience, no developed moral sense yet. And this core idea, starting simple and ignorant, it's absolutely crucial for understanding the whole Spiritist take on evolution. It implies our growth is this ongoing process. Learning, experiencing, choosing. And through that, shedding the ignorance to embrace, real goodness. It's about becoming, not overcoming some inherent darkness.
Okay, so if we start out simple and ignorant, neutral, how do some spirits end up going down paths that lead to suffering, or doing things we see as evil? The sources seem pretty clear about this shift. They emphasize certain words the spirits use. Doesn't sound like it just happens to them, right?
No, definitely not passive. You're right. The sources really hammer home this point. Those who are evil became so by their own will. That puts enormous weight on concepts like will, free will, and decision. Vontade, libre arbitrio, decisão, as they say in the original. These aren't just philosophy buzzwords. They're the engines driving our spiritual path. We aren't pushed into bad actions by some outside force or fate. It's our choices. The conscious exercise of our own will. That's what defines our actions, shapes who we are, and sets the direction of our development. The spirits keep repeating this because it underscores our agency, our accountability.
Right.
But, and this is important, these choices aren't made in a total vacuum. While the ultimate choice is ours, the sources also mention imperfect spirits, unquote. These spirits actively seek to involve and dominate those who might be wavering, maybe leaning towards doing wrong. These entities, often stuck in their own ignorance and suffering, they seem to get some kind of, well, perverse satisfaction from seeing others fall, like they enjoy the downfall. Historically, this kind of external influence was sort of symbolized in figures like Satan, not as one all-powerful devil, but as a representation of these negative, disincarnate influences around us. They tempt, they suggest, they amplify our lower instincts, but they can't make us do anything. The crucial point remains. Despite any outside pressure, the final decision, the exercise of free will, always rests with the individual who's incarnated. So our growth involves learning to recognize these influences and consciously choose our own way.
That leads to a really profound question, though. If free will is so central, and the ultimate goal is for everyone to reach goodness, why would a loving God allow spirits the freedom to choose paths that lead to, well, what we see as evil? It seems almost counterintuitive, doesn't it? What's the deeper wisdom there?
Right, and the answer the spirits give really gets to the heart of divine justice and the whole evolutionary plan. It's all about the wisdom of God found in the freedom of choice granted to each one. This isn't a flaw in creation, it's genius in a way. Think about it. If our goodness was just programmed, if we were like robots following a set path to virtue, our actions wouldn't have any real merit, would they? No genuine value. The ability to choose, even the ability to choose wrongly, is precisely what gives our good actions their meaning. It allows for real spiritual achievement. Without the freedom to mess up, the freedom to choose good, it kind of loses its power.
Yeah, I see that. The choice has to be real for the outcome to matter.
Exactly, and connecting that to the bigger picture, it means genuine merit, real spiritual growth, true wisdom. These can only come from freely chosen good. It can't be just handed to us or forced on us. This echoes Christ's teaching, right? To each according to their works. Our free will is the engine of our development. It's the furnace where our character gets forged. It's how we gain experience, learn lessons, and build up real merit, bit by hard-won bit. Now, does this freedom mean there's a risk of making bad choices and suffering the consequences? Absolutely. And that suffering itself is a powerful teacher. But this freedom is considered essential because it paves the way for an authentic, self-directed journey towards perfection. Every step forward taken under these conditions is genuinely earned, truly impactful, and becomes part of the soul's very fabric.
Okay, so we start ignorant, we have free will, we face influences, all part of a divine setup for earning true merit. Now, here's what gets really interesting. How do these deep spiritual ideas play out in the world we actually live in today? The sources seem to paint a pretty stark, almost urgent picture of our current reality, suggesting these old principles are more relevant now than ever.
They really do. The speaker in the source material expresses this profound sadness about the great situation of intolerance we're seeing everywhere now. It's pervasive, isn't it? This tendency to judge people, condemn them, sometimes even persecute them just because they think differently, just because they are different, just because their life choices are different.
Yeah.
This inability, or maybe unwillingness, to accept diversity creates huge problems in society. It breaks communities apart, fuels conflict, builds walls between people. It's a pretty clear sign that, as a whole, humanity is still wrestling with that very ignorance we talked about, that starting point. We're failing to expand our understanding and empathy.
And this intolerance isn't just some abstract societal issue, is it? The source is connected directly to very personal pain.
Absolutely. That raises a crucial point. The sources draw a straight line from this collective intolerance to the deep, painful struggles happening within families, within individual lives. They talk about the devastating impact of tremendous problems because of drugs and the heartbreaking rise in suicides. The speaker shares this incredibly poignant story. Meeting a young mother, maybe in her 30s, just consumed by grief. She'd lost her only daughter, just 21 years old, to suicide. And the implication is, this isn't an isolated case. This kind of raw, individual suffering shows we're living in a difficult hour. It's a time that demands our choices, both collective and personal, move beyond intolerance and suffering. We need to align with a higher purpose, with deeper compassion. Like, what would the choices of God be for us now? It's a stark reminder that the journey from ignorance is far from over, and the consequences are felt very, very personally.
That's a powerful connection. So what does this mean for us as individuals trying to navigate all this? If we start simple and ignorant, what's our internal guide? What helps us make better choices in such tough times? The sources point to a really powerful inner truth.
Yes, they assert this fundamental, empowering idea. God also is in us. This isn't some far-off deity concept. It's described as a tangible spark within, a part of God that makes us generous, humble, truthful, concerned with the other. It's the source of our best qualities, that inner nudge towards compassion, honesty, helping others. Recognizing that spark and actively trying to cultivate it becomes the key task in overcoming our initial ignorance. It reminds us that even with our flaws, our potential for good is infinite because it's, well, literally divine.
So recognizing that God within us.
Right. And that internal awakening then feeds into a bigger call for Earth itself to free itself from these cycles of intolerance, conflict, suffering. And for us individually, that means actively working to free our hearts from prejudices. But this isn't just about shedding the biases we picked up in this life from family or culture. The sources suggest it goes deeper. It's about releasing things that we have inherited from other lives we have had. Our prejudices, our knee-jerk reactions, our judgments. They might be really old patterns built up over many lifetimes. So the deep spiritual work is to dismantle these old, limiting ways of thinking, letting the God within us shine through more clearly and guide how we interact with everyone. That's how we help free the planet, too.
Wow, the idea that our prejudices could be echoes from past lives, that's something else. We often think of ourselves as relatively new souls, maybe just a few lifetimes in. But the sources seem to suggest some of us have been around for a very long time.
Oh, absolutely. The speaker shares this fantastic anecdote that really drives this home. It involves Dr. Becerra de Menezes, speaking through the medium Donna Irene, talking to a group of young people, teenagers, maybe 16, 17. And they, with that youthful curiosity, asked if they'd lived during Jesus' time. Maybe feeling a bit proud, thinking they were old souls. Dr. Becerra's response was just brilliant and humbling. He said, "My children, long before Moses, you were already walking the earth, you fools." Exactly. And initially they felt this rush of pride, like, wow, we're ancient spirits. But then, and this is the kicker, that pride quickly turned into feeling dying of shame. Not because they were scolded, but because they suddenly realized how much more they still had to learn. How many times they'd essentially restarted despite maybe millennia of experience. It's a powerful story because it highlights the ongoing nature of spiritual evolution, the sheer length of time involved. It strongly implies that very few, maybe none of us, have really opted for good since the beginning without faltering. Because if we had, we wouldn't still be here on Earth. We'd have moved on. The fact we're still here, still restarting, grappling with basic lessons is a huge call for humility. Our growth is an eternal process, no matter how ancient we might be.
Humbling thought indeed for us ancient fools. Okay, so when we look around today, especially say online, on social media, wow, there's so much venom, so much negativity, it can be really disheartening. The sources offer a very direct spiritual explanation for this, beyond just psychology, and then, importantly, a way forward.
Yeah, the speaker finds it unbelievable how people have true hells within them. That's a powerful phrase, not just a metaphor. She points to the virulent, merciless criticism on social media, the hatred for people they've never seen, and suggests these aren't just random outbursts. They're manifestations of deep internal suffering, unresolved trauma, guilt, resentment, negative thought patterns eating away inside. This really reframes heaven and hell, doesn't it? Puts them squarely inside us. Our inner state, peaceful or chaotic, inevitably radiates outward. It creates this cycle of negativity for ourselves and others.
So these internal hells project outwards.
That's exactly. Brings us to a crucial point, raising that important question, what do we do about it? The spirits are clear. No one can perform miracles alone to fix this collective mess. They issue a warning. If we, currently incarnated on Earth, do not take a positive attitude, things will become very complicated. It's a direct call for individual action. Personal responsibility is the foundation for change, the core idea, to really take on board that each one of us came with the task of changing our own heart. It's about prioritizing our inner work, cultivating positive attitudes, and consciously trying to create positive effects in the life around us. This individual inner work, not waiting for some external fix, is presented as the only real way to transform the planet's energy and avoid those complications from persistent negativity. The solution to societal hells starts with confronting our own.
Okay, now everyone listening, maybe take a deep breath, because here's where things take a truly extraordinary, almost cosmic turn. You might have heard about Chico Xavier's date limit. It's a prophecy that's, well, understandably fascinated a lot of people, but the actual story behind it, as shared through these sources, is just astonishing, and it all starts with a pivotal moment in human history, the first moon landing.
Right, the whole date limit narrative, which often gets simplified or even sensationalized, it came directly from the 1969 Apollo 11 mission. And the speaker is very firm on this. Man did get to the moon, no room for doubt there. But what's even more fascinating is her personal observation about Neil Armstrong. She says he was never the same after he came back. He famously avoided the spotlight, right? Refused huge amounts of money, accolades to talk about it. She speculates quite strongly that something happened there, something he saw that wasn't even incarnated, implying some kind of profound spiritual, maybe even extraterrestrial encounter that just completely changed him.
Wow. Something beyond the science.
Exactly. And when you connect that to the bigger cosmic picture, the spirits later revealed the true significance of that achievement. They said that beings from other, already spiritualized planets, worlds far beyond Earth's current stage, having mastered their lower instincts, became deeply concerned. Why? Because they realized the most warlike people in the universe had reached the moon. Their worry was immediate. If they don't stop at the moon, they will bring that warlike, aggressive thing close to us. It wasn't just about us potentially invading other planets. It was about our ingrained aggression, potentially contaminating a peaceful cosmic neighborhood, disrupting the evolution of other more advanced places. So the moon landing wasn't just our achievement, it became a cosmic event, putting humanity on the interstellar map in a way we hadn't expected. A moment of revelation, really, for the wider universe.
So this cosmic concern, this potential threat from humanity's aggression, what was the response from the higher spirituality? It involved, you mentioned, Christ himself, and a specific time frame.
Yes, a council of superior spirituality gathered, operating in the light of Christ, with Jesus presiding, a major event. And they decide that if, mark this, 50 years after man's arrival on the moon, there wasn't another world war, a third world war, then man would know an extraordinary advance in science, medicine, and technology. An incredible promise of progress. But, and this is the key, it was entirely conditional on us collectively managing to dominate its instincts, especially our aggressive warlike side. It was essentially a cosmic ultimatum, a test of our collective moral maturity. Our future scientific and spiritual progress hinged on choosing peace over conflict.
An extraordinary advance.
Right.
What kind of benefits are we talking about?
That leads to the crucial question, right? The sources specify it would unlock the possibility of healing various diseases and provide other major benefits for people with grave limitations. So, not just vague progress, a direct spiritual intervention offering a path to breakthroughs that could alleviate massive human suffering, but only if we could overcome our destructive side. That 50-year period, 1969 to 2019, was basically a window of opportunity, a cosmic trial for humanity to prove we were ready for this next level, ready to receive these incredible gifts. Our moral evolution was directly tied to our scientific potential.
The weight of that.
Yeah.
Knowing our collective future rests on our choices, our leaders' actions. It's unsettling. The speaker herself had a very human, almost funny reaction to this pressure, didn't she?
She did. She openly admits that when Donald Trump was elected, she felt this sense of doom, like this is our end. She feared he might inadvertently sit on the button and trigger that third world war, and her very human response. To cope with the stress, she ate a Shikabon ice cream. She calls it the only thing that has the same taste as childhood. A small comfort ritual against potential global catastrophe. It perfectly captures that tension between grand cosmic predictions and our everyday anxiety.
A Shikabon moment.
Obviously. And it helps clarify the date limit. It is simply that, a window, an opportunity for moral growth, for proving we could move beyond aggression and become worthy of this advanced spiritual help. It wasn't a fixed date for doom or some dramatic event, but a conditional period for our own transformation. The spirits confirm that in all these areas that we humans need so much to evolve, there are beings who came with the task to bring cures to various illnesses. So the potential is there, the help is ready. If we meet the conditions of peace and self-mastery, these beings are waiting for us to raise our collective vibration.
But if the potential is there, why aren't we seeing these breakthroughs?
And that leads to an urgent, important question. Despite this potential, the speaker expresses real frustration. She says things like, the cure for cancer is so easy, yet so many are disincarnating from cancer. And even more worryingly, diseases that were completely vanquished, like tuberculosis, are returning. To her, this suggests something is very wrong with the energy we're projecting as a collective, an energy that's clearly not from God. It's a painful observation. While the higher realms offer help, our persistent negativity, our failure to dominate lower instincts, our inability to cultivate love, these are actively blocking these blessings from fully manifesting. Our collective choices, our dominant energy, are directly impacting the planet's ability to receive this divine help. It's a tragic disconnect between potential and reality.
That's a heavy thought. So given these incredibly high stakes
cosmic and personal, the sources say this particular lifetime, right now, is especially crucial, like a crossroads.
Yes, precisely. This current life is described as a decisive life for who will continue incarnating in the third millennium on Earth. That's not just dramatic language. It implies a real, active sorting process is happening now. Our choices, our moral growth, our actions in this life are literally determining our future path. Souls who are leaving Earth in deep perturbation, meaning they disincarnate full of regret, anger, stuck in negative patterns from horrible things they did, they're being invited to discover the other side of the moon. It's a symbolic way of saying they're being gently guided to other, less evolved planets. They're told they will not return to Earth because Earth is advancing, and they'll live in another inferior world, more suited to their current state. Not punishment, but energetic resonance. Like attracts like.
So where we go next depends on how we live now.
Essentially, yes. Connecting this to the bigger picture, it highlights the incredible opportunity and responsibility of this life. Our dedication to inner change, to making choices aligned with love and service, determines if we continue on an advancing Earth or if we need to relocate temporarily to less developed worlds. These other worlds offer a setting where the lessons we resisted here might be learned better, maybe at a different pace. It underscores the urgency of cultivating the God within us now, making conscious choices for good. This specific incarnation carries immense weight in the grand scheme of our individual and collective evolution. We are, through our actions now, choosing our next planetary home and influencing the vibration of this one.
Okay, shifting gears slightly.
Yeah.
If you've ever felt like you're constantly fighting an uphill battle, especially when you're genuinely trying to do good things, the sources offer a very specific and maybe unexpected reason for that resistance coming from the spiritual side.
Yes, they reveal something quite challenging. There's a great envy from many suffering souls who besiege us in an attempt to make us fail purely out of envy because we have a body and they do not. Now, this isn't just random interference. It's apparently rooted in pre-incarnation agreements. We get the gift of a new body because, before we came here, we certainly promised more than them. We made big pledges, take on tough tasks, overcome specific challenges, accelerate our growth. And being granted this new body, this fresh chance, stirs up resentment in those suffering spirits who failed their own promises and are now stuck. They become these implacable observers.
Implacable observers, that sounds intense.
It does. And these observers are essentially our adversaries of yesterday. Those who didn't fulfill their own pledges and now watch us struggle with bitterness and envy. The spirits warn. Good people, people with noble tasks, are falling because the shadow works. This highlights how subtle and cunning these spiritual obstacles can be. It's not always obvious temptation. It might be subtle doubts, small setbacks, amplified insecurities, even unexpected betrayals that seem foolish from the outside. But these influences are strong enough to derail extraordinary people, people with huge potential, causing them to succumb to traps that seemed foolish. It really underscores the need for constant spiritual awareness, vigilance, and understanding that our challenges often have a spiritual dimension beyond the physical or psychological. Requires inner strength.
That definitely adds another layer to understanding life's struggles. And related to that, it's so easy for us in the middle of hardship to wonder why things are so hard, to question fairness. But the sources propose this radical idea. Maybe many of these hardships weren't just dumped on us. Maybe we actually asked for them fervently before we were born.
Exactly. The speaker often shares how people facing immense pain say, "I would never have chosen this." Yet a spirit friend reveals the truth. You did choose it, crying and pleading on your knees. It shows how ambitious, almost reckless our souls can be before birth, eager for fast growth. There's this poignant anecdote. A friend, before incarnating, was warned by her guides about her chosen husband, he wouldn't be a companion, and about 2 of her 4 chosen children. Very needy souls. But in her spiritual eagerness, she insisted on all 4 kids and the difficult partner. Years later, after the inevitable separation, she was bitter, asking why she suffered so much, only to be gently reminded by Dr. Becerra. These were her choices.
Wow. Crying and pleading for the hard path.
It leads to this crucial, maybe uncomfortable question. Why do we do that? The lesson seems to be in the eagerness to finally have God within us. In our spiritual ambition, we demand that everything fall upon our heads. We take on tough lessons for rapid growth, but then when it falls, when the challenges hit us on earth, we say God does not exist, or we complain bitterly about the very things we requested. It highlights this huge disconnect between our spiritual promises and our earthly complaints. Plus, the sources add that our current mental state can create dramas that should not exist, and even physical illnesses not in our spiritual map. If our feelings work against us, resentment, negativity, resistance, the body eventually follows, manifesting illness. It's a powerful reminder. Many hardships are self-imposed for growth, even if we forgot why. Our health is tied to our willingness to embrace our chosen path.
That's a lot to take in,
Yeah.
that our struggles might be our own request. And related to how we see our role, we often feel it indispensable, right?
Notice.
Especially to our families, like this couldn't manage without us. But there's a powerful story in the sources that really challenges that assumption.
Oh, it's an extraordinary story from Chico Xavier about his friend Lamera de Andrade. Lamera met another friend who had recently disincarnated, died suddenly, and this friend was completely distraught, convinced his family wife kids would fall apart without him. He thought they couldn't do anything without his guidance. Lamera, with that calm, cosmic perspective, gently told him, my friend, how he returned from Earth with illusions. Then he delivered the truth. A week after his burial, his entire family had resolved itself. The directionless son found a job, the lost daughter found her way, the wife found her strength. They mourned him, yes, but they adapted, found solutions, and moved on surprisingly quickly.
Wow. Resolved itself in a week.
It's a profound lesson. We should not delude ourselves. Our family members will miss us, but no one will die with us unless they are on the same plane. Meaning, unless their disincarnation is part of a shared plan. And this truth isn't meant to be sad or diminish our love. It's meant to be liberating. It encourages us to focus on our own spiritual progress, our own tasks, our own evolution, instead of being constantly burdened by the illusion that others absolutely need us to survive. It reminds us that while we're loved and valued, every soul has its own path, its own resources, its own capacity to find solutions. Realizing this lets us dedicate ourselves more fully to our own journey, knowing that's how we best contribute anyway.
That's a really freeing perspective, actually. Humbling but freeing. And to really progress on our own path, we need self-knowledge, right? To understand ourselves deeply. Throughout history, people have sought ways to look inward. The sources, surprisingly, bring up someone whose ideas were maybe once dismissed by some spiritual folks, but are now seen as incredibly relevant. Sigmund Freud.
It's true. For a long time, in some spiritual circles, Freud was kind of pushed aside. People felt, we don't need to study our unconscious. Maybe thought spiritual practice alone was enough. But the speaker notes a real shift. From some time now, everyone has put their hand on their conscience and said, no, Freud was right about many things. It points to this essential need to know our unconscious, to really dig into the hidden motivations, the suppressed stuff, the unexamined fears, the true feelings beneath the surface. Without that deep dive, we're kind of operating blind, misunderstanding our reactions, misinterpreting inner turmoil, and ultimately holding back our spiritual progress because we only know part of ourselves.
The journey is internal, too.
Knowing our unconscious. So how do we know if something's up? Well, that leads to a really important self-check, raising a key question for all of us. The sources give this critical red flag warning. If from some time now you have changed your personality, are having attitudes that are not common to your heart, the education you received, red flag. That's a huge signal for immediate deep self-observation. It pushes us to ask why. Why are rancor, sadness, melancholy, depression suddenly showing up or getting stronger? These aren't just moods. They're signs that something fundamental is out of whack inside. Exploring our unconscious thoughts, repressed emotions, unmet needs becomes crucial to find the root cause, get back in balance, and stop these things manifesting as illness or negativity. This inner work, often tough, is presented as vital for real spiritual progress. True spirituality includes the messy bits we might prefer to ignore.
That red flag is so important, especially looking at the mental health crisis today. It's such an urgent issue globally. The sources don't just acknowledge it, they put it in a spiritual context, linking it directly to our inner lives and authenticity.
Absolutely. The speaker mentions that the UN, back in 2020, predicted depression would be the most serious illness of the 21st century. It's a global crisis with deep spiritual roots. And it's key to understand, depression doesn't arrive suddenly. It builds up. It comes from prolonged sadness, from not understanding ourselves, and critically from pretending that everything is fine. The sources really emphasize how we know how to pretend. How many of us wear that mask of everything is fine for years, projecting composure while suffering silently inside? That suppression creates a huge gap between our outside and inside.
The pretense. Yeah, that rings true.
And what's fascinating is the direct link drawn between this lack of self-knowledge, this pretense, and the resulting mental and spiritual suffering. Constantly pretending, ignoring true feelings, refusing to face inner issues, it leads to this deep imbalance that eventually shows up as depression. The antidote offered: greater self-knowledge to always be able to restart. It's a call for radical honesty with ourselves, courageously acknowledging our imbalances, admitting when we're not fine without shame. This authenticity, facing our inner hells instead of masking them, isn't just for mental health. It's presented as a fundamental step in spiritual evolution. It lets us drop the heavy masks and embrace our true, growing selves, allowing real healing and progress.
So self-knowledge is key. But in a world just overloaded with information, confusion, how do we find our actual direction, our true north? The sources point to a gift we all have.
Yes, an inherent, extraordinary gift. The speaker states it so emphatically. All of us have intuition. Intuition are the words from above reaching your heart. This isn't some rare ability for a few mystics. It's presented as a powerful, direct line to spiritual guidance, that divine whisper, that gut feeling, that inner knowing that goes beyond logic. It's meant to help us. We're urged to always trust your intuition. It's not just wishful thinking. It's a built-in capacity, a sacred connection. When we cultivate it, it can light up our path.
Intuition as words from above. A beautiful way to put it.
Isn't it? And if we connect that to daily life, it means we're never truly alone or lost, even in the toughest moments. When facing hard choices, feeling overwhelmed, or just needing clarity, the advice is practical, yet profound. Go to a corner, say a prayer, ask for the forces of good to show you the way. And the promise is deeply reassuring. They will certainly show you the way. It's not just faith. It affirms this constant, loving spiritual presence, this team of invisible helpers ready to assist. By cultivating self-knowledge, listening inwardly, trusting intuition, we tap into this divine support. Uncertainty becomes a guided journey.
That's incredibly comforting. Knowing guidance is always there. But sometimes faced with our own flaws, we might think, why aim for perfection? Let's just accept our imperfections. But the sources seem pretty firm against settling for that comfort zone, right? They point to an unavoidable destiny for every soul.
They really do dismiss the idea of just embracing imperfection as the end goal. The speaker says it plainly. But there's no way, whether through pain or through love, we will get there. Meaning we will all reach perfection eventually. It's not a threat. It's presented as a fundamental law of cosmic evolution. The spiritual journey isn't optional, and it doesn't end in just sitting around being perfect. It's continuous and ultimately service-oriented. And what happens when we achieve perfection? Then we will all help those who are not yet perfect. So perfection isn't a private reward. It's a new phase of service. We become guides, helpers for those still climbing.
So no escape from evolving and then helping others evolve.
Exactly. That raises the question of implications, doesn't it? It reinforces this idea of no escape from evolving and working for good. It's not if, but how and when. It's a powerful call to renew our own lives intentionally, to resist that trap of thinking, I was called but not chosen, like spiritual purpose is only for a select few. Instead, the clear message channeled through Chico Xavier is, we are all chosen to work for good, to do our best, to forget grievances, to transmit the best of our heart to the heart of others. It's a universal purpose, an invitation to actively, joyfully participate in this inevitable journey towards higher states, not just for ourselves, but for the benefit of everyone.
Okay, so if that God within us means generosity, compassion, who better to look at it as a model than Jesus? The sources draw this striking comparison, showing his revolutionary acceptance as incredibly relevant today.
They really do. The speaker highlights how Jesus was totally different from the man of his time, suffered prejudice, precisely because he was so radically inclusive. And she makes this bold statement. If he came today with the same stories from 2,000 years ago, I don't doubt that someone would crucify him. That's not just being dramatic. It's based on the observation that even now, it is still very uncomfortable to talk about accepting everyone, not discriminating against anyone. His message of unconditional love, accepting the marginalized, the outcast, it challenged the rigid norms then, and it still challenges our prejudices now. His teachings are still revolutionary.
Still uncomfortable. That's telling.
It is. And what's fascinating, often overlooked, is the link between his inclusivity and his suffering. He actively sought out the most humble, those who suffered, the slaves, the women of the street. He knew absolute suffering was there where compassion was needed most. The sources describe his calls to people like Matthew, the hated tax collector, and Peter the fisherman as magnetic. They even talk about this profound pre-incarnation meeting where Jesus convened those who, at the beginning of his task, would follow him. This included the future apostles, but also the first Christians who would die in the arena. All had pledged loyalty in the spiritual realms, and incredibly, even Judas Iscariot was there, swearing he'd be the most faithful. This narrative highlights Jesus' foresight, his willingness to work with all souls, regardless of future struggles, embodying that ultimate God within us, a boundless love that seeks to uplift everyone.
That pre-incarnation meeting.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, beyond these huge examples, let's bring it down to daily life. Our words, they seem small, but they hold immense power, don't they? The sources have a personal story about learning this.
Yes, the speaker shares this experience from when she started lecturing, very young, only 16, full of enthusiasm, maybe less polish. And the spirit Euripides Barsanulfo, through Donna Irene, gave her this key advice. My daughter, no swearing, no crude jokes. This wasn't just about being polite, it was about the immense power of the word, how easily it can be misused, even accidentally. The source says you can convince someone that a stick is a stone, with clever words, twisting perception, leading people astray. That early guidance was a vital lesson in the ethical responsibility of speaking, especially about spiritual things.
The power to convince someone a stick is a stone.
Wow. It raises that important question for all of us, not just speakers. We have to be careful with our words because the gift of speech does not only exist for good times. Our words carry weight in anger or frustration too, not just inspiration. It's a reminder of our influence. We have a responsibility to use words to uplift, clarify, heal, build understanding, not confuse, demean, or divide. The example of Donna Irene herself, initially known for heavy jokes but stopping at Euripides' request, shows even experienced people need to stay mindful of their words' impact and align them with higher guidance.
Such a vital reminder for conscious communication. And connecting that back to the world, we're grappling with so much division, difference. The sources have a strong message about acceptance, starting right at home, in our families.
Absolutely. The speaker emphasizes the importance of family, acknowledging, thankfully, that, thanks to God, families are the most diverse. This isn't accidental, it's part of the plan because the world has to live this diversity. It's a direct call to embrace and respect all the different ways people live, express themselves, walk their paths. She urges us to genuinely know the heart of that person just because they are different from you, whether it's their choices, their path, their beliefs. It's a challenge to prejudice, judgment, categorizing. She warns against judging, reminding us, tomorrow your foot may fail because you are pointing at another who failed. A call for humility, empathy, recognizing our shared journey.
Don't point fingers. Yeah.
Because connecting this to the bigger picture, it's about seeing the divine spark, that God within us in everyone. Regardless of differences, choices, perceived flaws, understanding that even today, it is still very revolutionary to say that you can be good, noble, and worthy, that this is the obligation of the eternal soul. In a world quick to condemn and create otherness, this message affirms the inherent worth and potential in every single person. Look beyond the surface, recognize the spiritual essence uniting us, build community on universal love.
Okay, we've talked about big ideas, personal change, but what about the practical side? Manifesting God within us through action. The sources highlight some real tough challenges faced by spiritual groups, showing a disconnect between belief and practical help.
Yes, the speaker shares the very difficult financial situation of Nosso Lar, a home for children with cancer. They desperately need major repairs, plumbing, wiring in a 47-year-old building. Their main fundraiser, the Festa Junina, saw income drop significantly, our $180,000 last year to our $150,000 this year. It's so bad they're being forced to close one of the two houses, directly impacting 30 kids and their mothers who rely on them for shelter, support, care, a real crisis.
That's heartbreaking. Closing a house for 6 children.
It is. And what's revealing, and frankly sad, is the contrast highlighted. A raffle ticket for Nosso Lar at $15 met resistance. People complained it was too expensive. Yet, a dinner for another shelter, featuring a popular Catholic priest, Padre Fabio de Mello, quickly raised $120,000 with our $300 tickets. The speaker directly links this disparity to a damaging belief some Spiritists hold. Spiritists don't have to do charity or thinking money is vile metal. She explicitly blames this attitude for institutions like Chico Xavier's Lar in Uberaba closing, saying firmly, the fault is ours. It shows a critical disconnect between spiritual belief and the essential, tangible acts of charity needed to do good in the world. It's a powerful call to reevaluate priorities, understand that spiritual growth must be expressed through practical compassion and support for those in need, not just abstract ideals.
A very direct challenge to put belief into action.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's circle back to a comforting but also significant reminder. We're not alone on this journey, and every interaction matters. There's invisible support around us.
Absolutely. The speaker stresses that Dr. Becerra de Meneses has this huge spiritual team, 10,000 spirits who will always come to help. This vast team observes us constantly, physically and psychically, noting our progress, struggles, intentions. Their goal is that each Saturday we meet, when these truths are shared, we leave better to spread to the world these things we talked about. It reinforces we're surrounded by guidance and support. And this means God within us isn't just internal change, it leads to a new life, not only for us internally, but externally. A shift others notice, making them ask what changed us. Our inner renewal radiates out.
Our change becomes visible, inspiring.
Exactly, and this whole deep dive, exploring free will, evolution, purpose, it's all a call to continuous self-improvement, a renewal that has no date limit.
Yeah.
It implies this ongoing commitment, lifelong, multi-incarnational, to evolving, learning, making our actions reflect the divine within. It's a challenge to avoid disincarnating, crying, leaving life full of regret or sorrow or with 1,000 justifications for our failings. Because, why? Our spiritual protectors, our guides, they'll be there asking gently but directly, what did you do when we transition back? It emphasizes that every moment, every choice, every effort towards good counts is seen and contributes to our eternal journey. Our task is to embrace this renewal with joy and responsibility, not regret or excuses.
So what have we really unpacked today? We've gone from that fundamental choice between ignorance and good all the way to the cosmic implications of humanity reaching the moon. We've seen how our choices, made before birth and right now, profoundly shape our reality, individually and collectively, and how embracing that God within us can genuinely transform our lives and the world. This deep dive really showed that every interaction, every thought, every act of charity, it all adds up in our collective spiritual evolution, and thankfully, we're not doing it alone.
Right. And considering all that, maybe a final thought for you to ponder. If we're all chosen, all have intuition, all on this unavoidable path to perfection, what invisible promises might you have made before this life? Maybe, like the sources suggest, you were crying and pleading for the very challenges you face now, seeing their potential for growth. If so, what steps could you take, maybe starting today, to consciously, even joyfully embrace and fulfill those deep pledges? Imagine knowing your individual journey, your choices contribute not just to your own growth, but to the spiritual advancement of an entire planet. Maybe it's less about being called or chosen, and more about finally accepting the immense divine power of choice that's always been yours, and realizing that this life right now might be exactly what your soul asked for.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Until next time, take care and have a wonderful and blessed day.